On September 10th, this year, during the Tankers Day celebration on a well-known television program, the general director of Uralvagonzavod, A.V. Potapov, announced that the Russian Ministry of Defense had tasked the company with resuming the serial production of T-80 family tanks. This is undoubtedly interesting news and in many ways sensational. During the Soviet era, T-80s were produced at the Karov plant in Leningrad and the Omsk transport engineering plant named after the October Revolution. The latter, in the 1980s, was the leading producer of the T-80. The most mass-produced model was the T-80BV, which was adopted by the Soviet Army in 1985. At the time, the T-80 was the most privileged main battle tank, intended to be equipped with the most expensive and advanced systems, including a guided weapons system and an automated fire control system. Its main feature was its gas turbine engine, GTD, along with a transmission and unique suspension system that provided superior ride smoothness. The GTD, with the same volume as a diesel engine, offered higher power, better starting characteristics in low temperatures, and superior maintainability. As a result, the T-80BV had better dynamic performance compared to the T-64BV and T-72B diesel-powered tanks, about 40 to 55% higher specific power and acceleration characteristics, and around 20% better speed. However, its main drawback was the high cost and technical complexity of the GTD, as well as its lower fuel efficiency, with a specific fuel consumption 30 to 40% higher and a volumetric consumption twice as high for the GTD 1000 TF engine. The T-80BV was about twice as expensive as diesel-powered tanks, and while it matched or slightly outperformed them in terms of military technical specifications, the difference was not significant. The collapse of the USSR coincided with the beginning of serial production of the T-80U at the Omsk plant. Production at the Kirov plant had already ceased by that time. Although the T-80U was adopted in 1985, it only entered mass production in the early 1990s, by which point it was already becoming obsolete. The deep crisis in Russia's defense industry disrupted deliveries of the T-80U to the Russian army, with only about 300 units produced. The Omsk plant managed to stay afloat for a while by exporting tanks to Cyprus and South Korea, but harsh competition in the global arms market and Russia's economic difficulties meant that no further contracts followed. Tank production was halted in 1996, and the plant soon entered bankruptcy proceedings. Uralvagonzavod and the Ural Design Bureau of Transport Machine Building survived the 1990s due to a contract to supply T-72S tanks to Iran and the effective financial policies led by chief designer V.R. Potkin. In 2001, a major contract was signed to deliver T-90S tanks to India, followed by orders from other countries. From 2004, the delivery of T-90A tanks to the Russian army resumed. The plant underwent a revival, restoring and modernizing its production capabilities, processes, and supplier connections. In August 2007, Uralvagonzavod Scientific and Production Corporation was established, combining companies involved in the development and production of heavy armored vehicles. Omsk Transmash also became part of this corporation, and in the early 2010s, it mastered the overhaul of T-72B B1 tanks to the T-72B3 level. During this period, it was decided to decommission and gradually dispose of T-80 tanks as they reached the end of their service life, which would unify the tank fleet based on T-7290 models and eliminate the diverse legacy of Soviet-era tanks. However, the changing geopolitical situation prompted a review of this decision. As a result, a comprehensive modernization program for the T-80BV was developed, featuring upgraded armaments, a new fire control system, and enhanced protection. In 2017, the modernized tank, designated the T-80BVM, was unveiled to the public. The Omsk plant was urgently reoriented towards overhauling and modernizing the T-80BV instead of the T-72B3. With the onset of the special military operation, T-80 tanks participated in heavy combat operations alongside other models. Based on combat experience, further modernization efforts were undertaken, including improving protection for the tank's side, rear, and upper projections, reducing visibility across various spectrums, and equipping the tank with jamming systems to counter FPV drone guidance and control systems. It was precisely such a tank that became the main focus of the TV show where the aforementioned announcement was made. On one hand, the plans to revive serial production of the T-80 suggest that the Omsk plant has fully restored and upgraded its production lines. Otherwise, where else could these gas turbine tanks be manufactured? It's encouraging that the plant has survived and is thriving. But this raises the key question: what version of the T-80 is planned for production? The hull and turret of the T-80 BVM have not changed compared to the base T-80 BV. Its armor protection, especially the turret, is too weak by today's standards to justify restarting production from scratch. Moreover, the technology for casting the T-80 BV's turret has likely been lost, and reviving it would be pointless. The T-80U has better protection, but given modern requirements, restarting its production is also impractical. Interestingly, the T-80U hasn't undergone any modernization for unclear reasons. It would be beneficial to upgrade the remaining T-80Us in service, similar to the T-80 BVM. Thus, two possibilities remain. The first is the production of a new gas turbine tank, developed based on the latest advancements, which, by the way, have continued in the Leningrad and Omsk design bureaus over the years. This could include the development of a tank with a combat compartment created as part of the Burlak R&D program, which started in the early 2000s. This program involved the installation of a new unified combat compartment, a turret with modular frontal armor, a modern fire control system, and a rear-mounted isolated ammunition compartment. Judging by photos that appeared online 2 years ago, testing of tanks within this R&D program may still be ongoing. Serial production of such a tank would fully occupy the Omsk plant and its suppliers, including Kaluga's Kadvi, the main producer of gas turbine engines. However, launching another new tank into production would require enormous financial investments, which are highly undesirable under current conditions. This tank would undoubtedly be significantly more expensive to produce than the T-90M, the most advanced serial tank in Russia, whose production is already hampered by the modernization of T-72B3M and T-80 BVM models. And let's not forget the upcoming serial production of the T-14 Armata. In the worst Soviet tradition, Russia could end up with several different types of tanks in service, each officially designated as a main battle tank. A more rational option would be to maximize the adaptation of assembly units, systems, and components for modernized tanks. For example, try to install the T-90M's combat compartment on the T-72B3M, the T-80 BVM, and the tank planned for production in Omsk. Ideally, all tanks could be equipped with a unified autoloader or loading mechanism and a standardized suspension system, though this seems unlikely under current conditions. Alternatively, a unified engine transmission compartment could be developed with both diesel and gas turbine engines, one for tanks assembled in Nizhny Tagil and the other in Omsk. Now, why does Russia need T-80 when it has T-90? Let us know in the comments. We discuss such interesting topics every day. Please like, share, and subscribe for more such stories in the future.